let's get our evening started. So again, welcome everybody to our presentation this evening. We are really excited to be hosting all of you. I'm Lindsay Shaw. I'm the VP of Practice Development at Clarity. And my co-hosts this evening and presenters are Senior Practice Consultant Robbie Grayson, who specializes in working with our startup program. This is to assist new practices in opening their business and practices that are expanding into a new area to grow their business. We also have Senior Practice Consultant Donna Walker. She also specializes in our startup program alongside Robbie. And then we have our regional sales director, Jasmine, and myself, who are going to round out the evening sharing a little bit more about what Clarity has to offer. So as we kick off the evening, I'm actually going to turn it over to Dr. Rick Myron, who all of you know, and he's going to give us an introduction to get us started this evening.
Sure. First and foremost, thank you guys for taking the time to do this for all of our care doctors. I know it's extremely beneficial, and depending on where our care doctors are along the journey, this will be a good one that'll be recorded that we can share along the way, because I think as business goes, we're very foreign to trying to do med spa related work. All of us are probably very well versed in dentistry and have a practice, but I know for myself, when I went down this pathway, I didn't know what kind of lasers I should look for. I didn't know what kind of equipment I needed. I didn't know where to order basic things from that are very different than ordering at Henry Schein, which is common in dentistry. And so, naturally not knowing all these things, I reached out to friends that I knew in the aesthetic space to try and find a consultant that would, take me to the next level in a nutshell. And so, I was introduced to Robbie Grayson, who's been a blessing for us, because without her, our practice would not be where it is today. Many of you guys have been through my practice and seen how organized it is, how great our staff is. And, she participated in everything from the design, color selections, what kind of skincare lines we were going to have in there, what kind of lasers, how we were going to get buffaloes and everything else. And along the way, I realized that, just like with many things, we actually got a lot of discounts on products, because obviously you're doing this frequently and have, partnerships with different companies. And so I'm quite sure that we save more money than the entire, consultation fee just from that. It's really helped our team understand how to sell. There's tons and tons of training videos that are included. So we had our entire team watch all these training videos. And then we were on weekly calls, literally every single week. We're on a weekly call with Robbie and or somebody part of their team, really making sure that, the clinic was rolling at the right speed. I have a feeling that probably our partnership lasted a little bit longer than most of yours will, hopefully, because we got stuck in the middle of COVID, which, slowed things down, and got to know Robbie very well during that time. And so I think for those that are very serious about, really wanting to do aesthetics and, not just kind of a hobby thing, a Friday afternoon for 3-4 hours in your dental practice, if you're really serious about adding, $1 million of revenue or more per year, doing this stuff, there are people that know a lot more than we do in this space. And that's the way that I look at Clarity, and specifically with all the work that Robbie did. So again, Robbie, I can't thank you enough. And that's my introduction. It's just my testimonial for you. So I'm taking it away from here, and thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. An amazing experience. I'm Robbie Grayson. Nice to meet all of you, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to work together. This is a different space, even though dentistry, and just a little background, some of you may have met me a month or so ago in Miami, but we think, and I have a little bit of a dental background. I started, in fact, in dentistry as a hygienist, and then in the last 30 years have really focused my career in the aesthetic space. So, and the perspective might be from the outside that, well, these are very similar type, practices. We book appointments. Particularly if you're doing some cosmetic dentistry, but the reality is that there's a big difference in the two spaces. So when we met with Dr. Myron and when we were looking at how could we take your clinical expertise, the science that Dr. Myron's put together for you guys and with what you do, and combine it with our expertise, but it's an exclusive and unique opportunity that's been crafted just for the practices and the way that you're going to move forward. We believe that a lot of you will be adding this vertical into your existing dental practice. And just because you have the space in the practice, what we do know is that you have to approach that from a different perspective. So when I look at what's happening, and as Lindsay mentioned, we have a startup program that we work with people that have no foundation, have no practice foundation, no dentistry, and it really wasn't a good fit just for you guys. So, and one of the things that is apparent now is the competition. And when we start a new practice, the first thing we talk about is credentialing. What is the unique proposition that that practice has? And the wonderful thing about what we're doing with Care Aesthetics is that the visionary leadership, you have that credential already. Nobody else can say they're a Care Aesthetics practice. And that's one of the things that is difficult for a lot of these aesthetic practices, is that, you know, there is no uniqueness. They're still doing the same foundational services, whereas the biostimulatory, using the PRF with the laser, those things, and being specifically a Care Aesthetics practice, put you ahead out of the gate. But then the challenge becomes, you know, can I use the same software? Can I use the same tools I use in my dental practice? What are the trends in aesthetics that I need to be looking forward to? Fortunately for you guys, one of the top 3 trends right now is regenerative medicine, biostimulatory. So, you know, get ahead of the curve. So there are huge opportunities in terms of just being affiliated with Care Aesthetics, but that doesn't give you the operational expertise, the marketing expertise, how to manage and strategize in that practice, because there are very, very vast differences. And we'll go through those and how what we've put together for you will take that unique credentialing, and through our program and with our support, help you to have a pathway to doing, as Dr. Myron said, very doably $1 million a year if you have one treatment room in your practice. So this is a very unique opportunity. It has been crafted just using the Care Aesthetics protocols, the science, the credibility of all of that, and you are uniquely Care Aesthetic practices, and then buckling on our systems and how to move into the aesthetic space and speak to that client. So next. Let's back up one. All right, here we go. So first of all, I just wanted to, we sat down and put together just the fundamental differences between a pure aesthetic practice without the dental foundation, and a dental practice. So the patient focus is, for the most part, routine care, preventive health, cosmetic dentistry. Yes, that's your cash-based element, or you know, orthodontics or certain things like that, depending on insurance. Whereas with an aesthetic practice, a Care Aesthetics practice that is purely aesthetic, it's elective, results driven, non-invasive treatments. So I have choices. I am not, you know, coming in every 6 months for my cleaning. So very different patient focus in terms of and how we approach that patient. The revenue model in dentistry, insurance reimbursement, copays, and cash. Whereas in an aesthetic practice, it's direct payments, multi-treatment plans. We'll talk more about that a little bit, and that's one of the things we're going to work with you to grow your practice with one patient, making one patient visit your practice 7 times a year, repeat visits throughout the year. Excuse me, memberships, events, gift certificates. So our revenue model in aesthetics We have a lot of pathways to revenue, and you need to use them all. You need to understand them all so that you can be competitive with the other aesthetic practices in your marketing. It is completely different than the way you would market a dental practice. And that's probably when I look at when we work with, and we do work in our startup program, we've had we've had a couple of care aesthetic practices go through. I've developed several practices with dentists that were not care aesthetic dentists. And the one vast difference I find is the perspective of the dental practice as to their marketing versus what we have to do in aesthetics. And in the dental space, there's local outreach, referrals, necessity driven, recall systems. The marketing is not so much about the branding. Branding is important, but the branding, the positioning, again, you already have that unique value proposition. So let's capitalize on that. Strategic partnerships, digital marketing. Aesthetics is very image driven. So, with all due respect, I don't think about going to my dentist for my aesthetic procedures, even though what you're offering is absolutely viable and it's just as good as the aesthetic practice, but you're a care aesthetics practice. So we want to again capitalize on that from our marketing, and position you and teach you and share with you the way to do that. The sales approach is passive, necessity-based, insurance explanations, the consultation process, the lead capture, all of those steps to closing or getting a patient, a prospect to become a patient are vastly different. With aesthetics, it's much more aggressive. We have to be proactive. It is a consultative from the minute the patient, actually the lead comes in, that whole consultative process starts, educating that patient about what they're interested in. We'll talk a little bit more as we go forward about what we have to offer there. Tailored to the desired outcome. I hopefully I don't have to see my dentist other than having my routine prophies, except for when I have an issue. Something's wrong, right? Unless of course, with the exception of cosmetic dentistry. Whereas in aesthetics, we want to talk about treatment plans because it doesn't stop. And how do I address that sales approach so that I'm not just selling that one service, that the biofill today that they came in for, but I'm selling all the things that we need to complement it. And we'll teach how to have that conversation in the beginning. The service experience is very different. Dentistry, more clinical, health focused, efficient, specific, pain-free with care aesthetics and in the aesthetic space, it's all about anti-aging. And very personalized. What I need is going to be very different than what Jasmine needs, and every patient is different. So we've got to express that. We've got to teach our team how to address that. Very experienced, focused, natural, and safety being obviously as in both dentistry and aesthetics, but because of, again, getting back to the competition, that is a very important value to have and to communicate to your patient base. Operations, dentistry standardized. You have your clinical protocols. It's a more functional setup. We have our four-handed dentistry with the exception of the hygienist, whereas in an aesthetics practice, it is flexible. It is certainly more spa-like, very important, and more advanced technology using lasers and coupling them with other things. Staffing in a dental practice, the staff is typically hygienists, dentists, and dental assistants outside of your administrative staff. And aesthetics, there are a lot of roles. It could be it can be dentist, of course, physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, RNs, and estheticians. So our labor pool is very different in aesthetics. And then compliance, of course, in either side, dentistry regulated by your state board of dentistry, And on the care aesthetics side and the aesthetic side is regulated by the State Board of Medicine. And so that's sort of the high level fundamental differences that we see. So let's go to the next slide and talk about what we see big picture of the sort of the pitfalls, the missteps that everyone makes. So, practices that don't anticipate or address critical challenges unique to aesthetic medicine, such as financial instability, inefficient operations, underperforming marketing, are at a risk of losing not just revenue, but reputation and patient trust. And so what are those? These are 8, and it's not just in your vertical where I've got a dental practice moving into aesthetics. These are really true for all aesthetic practices that we work with. Staff training is a huge gap in the aesthetic market. It's like with Dr. Myron, when we opened his practice, we did that initial training. But if when we leave or when you open your practice, you train your initial staff, and you need to be training all of your staff, your dental staff, so that they can refer. But staff training is one of the big missteps. Operational chaos. Definitely, and we'll get into that a little more. Compensation, very, very, very different from dentistry. Discounting without a strategy, and we'll talk in more detail about that specifically. Understanding or underestimating patient demand. I think that kind of goes 2 ways with the dental practice that's moving into the aesthetic space, because there's a perception that I have a patient base and they're just going to come to me. So that whole patient demand and how we capture that is a misconception, I think, with dentists. Deficient marketing strategies, compliance and regulation missteps. And then this last one, I'm going to have to say, first of all, that no medical vertical, and I've worked in quite a few in consulting, but in my experience, dentistry clearly has the recall system down better than any other vertical that you could work with. So, when I get my teeth cleaned, we book our next appointment right there. It's not even something we think about. We probably do it in the treatment room with the hygienist. So dentistry has done a beautiful job of conditioning the patient to know that I get my teeth cleaned, I've got to come back. Whereas so if let's say I have a perio issue and I come back 4 times a year, other than a filling or a root canal or something that is, I've got an issue. And if I come back 3 times, let's say, and I'm spending $300 for a cleaning and x-rays and all the things, that's $900. Whereas in aesthetic medicine, and this is one of the biggest opportunities that you have with our lifetime value of the patient, is when the patient comes in for that first visit, we estimate with proper treatment plans that they'll have at least 7 visits that year that they need to see you for. And so if you think about 7 visits and your average hourly revenue is $1,000, that's a $7,000 a year opportunity when we talk about taking that existing patient and that value. So these are the big missteps. And as I go through the program, and what I want to do tonight is literally take you step by step through what we're going to share with you, what you're going to learn in this program, and how it relates to these missteps that we just shared. So what we did is, this program was built for care aesthetics. This is not a program we offer to anyone else. It's a 12-month program. And it begins with the foundation, which I will tonight go through what happens in that foundation, where we get you to the point where you're ready to move into actually implementing and starting to do the work to add this to your practice. Then months 3 through 12, we'll go through the ongoing success, how we're going to support you, coaching, the video instruction, teaching your team, demonstrations. and checkpoints along the way with us. We're here to support you, to assess your progress, to give you the numbers and help you understand how to stay on track. So now what I want to do is just go through in a little more detail each of these parts and pieces. So the foundation part of the program, which is that first 2 months, you're going to, and I'll go through how we deliver that to you, but the cadence that we follow is, first, we want to make sure that we understand your market, because your market is not just the aesthetic market. Your market is, Cincinnati, Ohio. Your market is Deep River, Connecticut. It's where your practice is located, what your expectations can be, because we want to give you numbers and show you how to get those numbers. We want to teach you how to understand those numbers so that your expectations are manageable. You may have a lot more opportunity than you realize because you're not going after it in the right way. So we'll begin with talking about your target customer, what your opportunity in your market is. And then the next thing we'll do as we move through that foundational program is we're going to talk about price. And, be it in aesthetics in general, when we work with practices that need support and want to grow, one of the biggest mistakes we find is that they don't price for profit. They price to drive traffic into their practice. That's a mistake. We'll talk about why. We'll talk about how it actually hurts your reputation if you're seen as a discounting practice. It is not a method to build a practice, though. So we'll talk about that, but we won't just tell you why it's important to price properly. We'll teach you. We have tools on our platform and at Clarity that you can actually put in, if I charge this, where am I going to be? What is my profit? And what does that look like? And that would be to cover labor and all the other things you need to before your general administrative expenses. Well, from there, actually create a revenue plan for you. We are going to teach you how to build a forecast so that you can take this and you know what to expect. You have a goal to reach. So, we price the services in your market, and then we're going to show you with that information how to build a forecast based on that target customer, that opportunity that you have that we covered in the first class. From there, we'll go into the sales process. And I'll talk a little more about that when we get into that, when I cover that particular lesson. And then last of all, the operations. How do we avoid that operational chaos? The information, the SOPs, the consents, all your different levers that you need to pull to keep those gears turning in your practice. And then we do have a bonus session, which I'll go over a little bit at the very end. But how are we going to deliver this to you? So what we've done is we have designed a program that it'll be an 8-week program. There are 6 lessons. The lessons are delivered live. There are Zoom calls like this. And we'll go into the start and that sort of thing. But this is how we're going to deliver this. Hopefully you'll be able to come to the class live, because it's always more advantageous to ask questions and whatnot. However, as soon as the class is over, I don't know, 24 to 48 hours, I think, we will then send you a recording of that class, any collateral or anything that you need to accomplish what we talked about in that class that accompanies that you would get. And also you get an accountability checklist. So we are shadowing you. Donna and I will be working with you on this program. So we're looking at what you've done through that accountability checklist. You'll also have a one-on-one at the beginning of the program, hopefully as soon as we can set that up, within the first week, should you decide to join us with this. We want to meet with you one-on-one and go through your vision, your market, what you have, what your opportunity is, so that we can set expectations for you. I think so many times just going into what you're doing, not knowing, we can give you guidance in the very beginning by having this one-on-one with you. So we have a process that we go through so that we can understand better, your system. We're comfortable with the protocols, with the unique value proposition, but then we want to make sure that we can help as we're helping you. We understand where you are and we're meeting you where you are. So we have that one-on-one to do that. And then you'll have how we communicate is we use Slack. And we have been doing this now for 2 years, and I think we have probably at least 60 or more practices that have gone through or are still in our program. And every individual in the program has a group Slack. So when we start this process coming up that this unique opportunity we're putting together for tonight, you'll all have one Slack that after the classes that we communicate with, but you'll also have your very own private Slack communication channel. And that's how you can get to us the fastest with questions as you're going through the process. And then in addition to that, there are 2 hours of private coaching. And then one other thing that I don't have on here is a meeting with our customer experience team to help you get into the platform with the data and the tools and how to put that in. So in this 8 weeks, this is how we're going to deliver this information to you. So what I want to do is literally go through each lesson and tie that back and tell you what happens in that lesson, and tie it back to how we're going to address some of those missteps that we went through briefly in the beginning. So the first lesson, as I said, is just knowing your market, targeting your aesthetic customer. I think that sometimes in my experience, what we see is that I have all of these patients who trust me as a dentist and they come to see me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to adapt and choose you as their aesthetic provider. So we need to understand what your opportunity is, both in your practice, but I think a big mistake that someone coming from a dental background and moving to aesthetics makes is they don't try to grow that other opportunities that's out there, just as any other new med spa would do, or aesthetic practice. So we want to help you understand how to do that. We will talk about how you're going to credential your practice and the unique value proposition you have. But just having that, you need to know how to communicate it. You need to know how to use that in your marketing to reach your target audience. Lead capture. It is one of the most furious and committed parts of an aesthetic practice. The old early bird gets the worm. I know we all hear that and talk about it. Clearly, when a lead comes in, having a staff member or someone dedicated to know how to capture that lead within 15 minutes, the tools that go out to that lead that they are already introduced to your practice before. This is so crucial in aesthetic medicine. And we're going to teach you how to do that, how to track that. We have a tool so that you can track it. And you also, in tracking it, you're going to understand where your marketing dollars are working and where they're not. So again, this is all that first lesson we'll go through. And then we teach you how to actually do a feasibility study. We teach you how to take the demographics for the services you offer. In this case, say women 24 to 65 and household incomes of 100,000 or more, and put that against your competitors, because you do have competitors, and then what you can expect. And we'll use that information when we get down the road to build that forecast for you. So we'll also schedule a call to talk about the opportunity. So in this first thing, this is where we'll spend some time, but this is our first lesson. We begin with what are our opportunities, and then from there, we're going to guide you through the process of capturing those opportunities, bringing them into a practice, and building a sustainable practice with the care aesthetics protocols. The second lesson is pricing procedures to profit. Big mistake that happens. It's just because the practice down the road charges $10 for talks doesn't mean that you should. And when we want to show you why what the cost of sales are, where you need to be. So but there's a way to understand what that is from beginning to end. If I charge this, what do I have afterwards, and where is that going to lead me? So we work on what we call a profit per procedure. And that is one of the tools in the platform where you can put in the information. The beautiful thing about the opportunity for you guys is you understand what your cost of sales are. You know that when you do PRF treatment, you've got the kit cost, you've got the different costs, but we also want to teach you other things like, what is that compensation? Again, as I said earlier, when we talked about missteps, we talked about the labor pool and the difference in compensation, huge, big. And I think that there's a naivety almost, it's just not knowing that I'm not going to get, if I'm not the injector, and I know in a lot of cases you will in fact be the injector, but you may want to, this may be an opportunity for you to have another source of income without taking your time. So what is that injector going to cost you? What is that PA going to cost? And how do we factor that in to our pricing? And give you the strategies to grow the metrics. Like we say, the missteps, people don't know what numbers to look at and where the red flags are so that they can make those decisions. And then in this particular lesson, we will then take that pricing per procedure and drill it into, and I'll share it with you later on about how we use revenue per hour. Like I said earlier, if you're doing $1,000 an hour and that's your revenue per hour, and that's really where you should be, by the way, with your care aesthetics protocols. That should be your benchmark and your goal. And if you take that patient and they come in 7 times a year, that's a huge opportunity. So that second lesson will be about, pricing your procedures to profit, understanding how to use that information, and why I'm making those decisions based on data, unemotional facts, which is the data we'll teach you how to put together. Lesson 3, this is really where we will take all of the things that we did in lesson 1 and lesson 2, and in that NPQ and that new practice questionnaire with Donna and myself, and we're going to put pencil to paper. We're going to take you through our forecasting process. We know enough at this point about your path, where you are in your practice, and we'll identify what is your commitment to this? How many hours are you going to have in your practice available to staff? You got to know how many hours you have available to staff. Then we'll take from that based on your target opportunity that we talked about in the first class. What is how many of those staffed hours will you sell? What percentage of those hours do you have a good probability to sell based on the marketing? Again, going back to the first lesson. We'll talk about staffing and utilization. How many hours am I staffed? How many hours do I sell? What are the seasonality predictions? In aesthetic medicine, there is more of a seasonality to aesthetic medicine than dentistry. So, that's a big factor. And we want to make sure that when we're trying to put together your roadmap, your forecast for your unique practice, that we address that seasonality, because we know cash flow, or, how we run our business is important to be able to project that. And then we'll go through what the G&A is. We'll put all this into a calculator, an analytical tool that we have on the platform that'll be a part of the program you'll have access to and learn to use. So this is lesson 3. We're actually teaching you how to do something that in my opinion should be something you refer to every month, ongoing, updating, changing with benchmarks and things like this. But this is really the foundation of understanding how your practice is growing, where it's growing, what you need to tweak, what's doing really well and we want to do more of, and all those things. And it's all done with analytics, numbers, data that we're going to teach you how to use. In fact, this will be valuable for your dental practice too, because there is no reason you can't use this tool with your dental practice. You can give your hygienist, you can give, look at the cosmetic, at the cash-based side of your practice, and use our tool for that as well, not just the aesthetic side, not just the care aesthetics. Now we get into sales, and lesson 4 is all about sales, and our sales technique, our sales training has been tried and true. I've been teaching this process for 15 years. It doesn't change. It doesn't matter the market. It doesn't matter the procedures that you offer. Aesthetics has a very unique sales approach. The sales and customer service techniques it's not just services, it's retail. When we talk about retail, we were chatting about things this afternoon in dentistry. I know that there's some things that you do retail, but the opportunity is vastly different with aesthetic medicine. So we want to make sure that we understand in the sales process. When I say we, that's you, or that's your provider, or the person that's the clinician, that they understand that my retail opportunity is huge, and how do I capture that? We have practices with estheticians, for example, that sell $1 of product for every $1 of service. And so if the average esthetician services, which you can make as a part of this, is $300 an hour, they're selling $300 worth of retail, literally, and we see that all the time. And it's because of the way we teach you to sell. It's a consultative process. It's educating, and then from there, that's sort of big picture. But let's talk about where it all begins, and it begins with the phone. It begins with that lead coming through, that contact form, whatever. And we'll talk about why you need to have someone in your practice that understands that the phone skills, the lead capture, all of those things, because the first thing we got to do, all the marketing we're going to talk about in lesson 1 is very important, but it's marketing's responsibility to drive those leads to the practice. There's other things you can do to drive leads to your practice, but it is your team's responsibility to convert that lead to a patient through the consultative process. And it's a never-ending process. And again, this will be valuable for your dental practice. I think, there are a lot of verticals that don't use consultative education / sales that could grow their practices, where we don't really have a choice. The most successful aesthetic practices master the art of selling, the consultative sale, using a cosmetic interest questionnaire. The beautiful thing is that we'll create a care aesthetic cosmetic interest questionnaire. So you don't have to go out and each of you individually do it, because we're all doing the same thing. We start in aesthetic medicine with what we call a CIQ. We're going to teach you how to do that, so that you're learning the first visit from that patient. What are their concerns? I'm coming to you for, filler. I want to have some biofill, but there are other things that bother me: the reds in my skin, the browns, all those other things, skin rejuvenation. I can go on and on. And you need to discover that. So we have a tool that's a wonderful discovery that takes you through that discovery process. And then from there, you will have literally a treatment plan. We want that first consultation for that patient to have a comprehensive treatment plan. Again, this created just for care aesthetics. So the beautiful thing is, again, this isn't something that's one-off that you guys have to do. It's already built into the opportunity you have with the care aesthetics protocols. We'll talk about overcoming objections, closing the sale, asking for the business, how to do it, and to take the stigma of sales away, because you're not selling, you're educating. And we want to teach you, and we want to teach your team. And that's one of the beautiful things about what we're doing, which Donna and Lindsay will get into a little bit later, is that on our platform, this sales training is is there for your team all the time. So when you get a new person at the front desk, they're not just, learning by the seat of their pants. They're actually have a training process to go through where they're graded, they're tested, and they learn this. And everybody in your practice is sort of singing from the same sheet of music, actually. So we'll cover all of that with you, and that is in a lesson, but it is also supported by the platform. The fifth lesson, and this is, to take care of the operational chaos that we talk about, and we see it. Yes, you'll have SOPs. Yes, you'll need consent forms and all those things, right? Those will be in this operational portion as it relates to care aesthetics. But we also, we in our operational program, the first part of it is leadership. And you're probably going to say, and I'm sure all of you have great practices that with happy people, happy cultures, but now you have a whole new part of a practice. This is a new business within a business. And so what does the org chart look like? Who reports to who? All of those things are so important to communicate in the very beginning. We divide our operations into patient facing and clinical. So you would get all the clinical forms, and then we have systems for you to manage things like inventory. I talked about what a big part retail plays in aesthetic practices. So now we have inventory management, we have turns. There are tools that we have in our operational system that helps you to understand that. If you're going to be in this expansion of your practice, if you're going to be adding other providers, estheticians or nurse practitioners, you're going to have to recruit them. Again, a very, very different labor pool, how you communicate with them, how you interview them, how you get them, started on a path to success in your practice is very different, in my experience, than a dental practice. So all of these tools are in here, and there is also a manager's financial training session. So if you want your manager to be able to understand the metrics, the numbers, the KPIs, the benchmarks that you need to be at, we have a tool in this part of the program that will train your manager. So you have a really solid operational foundation or stool, leg of that stool in your practice. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, when we're going through things, you'll also have our customer service team, which are amazing. Their response time, this is a one-on-one with you, but I just do have to always shout out that, being in needing customer support in other areas, I'm really proud of our customer experience team. They will have a one-on-one with you specifically to go through the actual platform. We have a business intelligence dashboard that you'll need to get your, baseline. Where are you? You may be at starting from zero, and that's all taken into account. And then what the benchmarks are, what you need to look for, what are the KPIs, how do you use those KPIs to make decisions about the practice. We have a goal tracker so that your practitioner or your practice knows what I intend to do that month. That all goes back to lesson 3. If you remember, when we're building that forecast for you, we're giving you that roadmap, that pathway. But now we got to have a way to look at that. We got to have a way to know where we are. And we don't want to wait until the end of the month or the 15th of the next month when the bookkeeper gets the P&L done, because that's all history anyway. We want to be able to look at it in real time as we go through managing this practice, growing this practice, and making decisions. And so we have all those tools. Our customer experience team will teach you how to use those. Will coach you to the plan, how to put the data entry in. So that is another one-on-one, in addition to, as I said, the other 2 one-on-ones, the 2 hours of one-on-one coaching. Those 2 hours, by the way, you can take in 15-minute increments, 30-minute increments, questions just when you need one-on-one, but it's there for you. And then we added this just because, again, this is a very unique opportunity. We've built this program just for care aesthetics practices. This is not for any other kind of aesthetic practice. It is unique to your practice. And because you guys are a group together, you're doing the same things. It was really exciting when I was in Fort Lauderdale a month ago, just the enthusiasm and the peers, it's just such a lovely thing to see. So we thought it would be fun and informational to get everyone together for an hour at the end of this foundational part of the program to ask questions. Okay, I'm doing this. How's this happening? Get feedback from you. And we'll schedule that with where we can make sure Dr. Myron's on that call too. So if there's questions about clinical setup and things like that, that he can help us with. But that is just high level overview from way up high. That's the 40,000, down on what we'll do in each of those lessons and why we're doing them and why we're choosing the cadence of the path to get you there. It starts with who is my market, and then so on and so forth. One of the things I did, if we can go to the next slide, and this is where I live. This is where, I can't do anything without putting the numbers on paper and saying, okay, what really is my potential? So I put this together for you, and I'm going to try to go through it so that it's easy to understand. And my assumptions here, and I don't think there's anywhere in the country that we couldn't make these happen if you do all the other things you're supposed to do. But my assumptions here is that we have one treatment room. So if you're doing this in your existing practice, if this is an expansion of what you're doing, I have one treatment room, and I'm offering laser skin rejuvenation with the care aesthetics protocols. I'm offering injectables, PRF, and toxins with the care aesthetics protocols, and then the IVs, the integrative medicine with the care aesthetics protocols. And we will build the revenue per hour. These are my assumptions. I think they're probably pretty correct based on my experience with Dr. Myron's processes, that my revenue per hour is for each category, 800, 1,000, 200. And then I've determined my gross profit based on my average hourly cost of goods. From there, we're going to go over to the next little template where how many hours did I have available to staff in that one room? So we're making an assumption that you've got one person dedicated, if it's you, if it's a nurse, practitioner, an injector, whomever, that we're going to have 2,000 hours available to staff. And what we do is we allocate based on clarity on our experience and our knowledge of what are going to be the drivers in your practice. We know that injectables are the driver. You're going to have more requests for that. So we allocate those percentages in this second slide for that 2,000 hours. 30% of the 2,000 hours is going to be allocated to laser skin rejuvenation. From there, I've got my little arrow that's heading down to the lower left. This is where we put together, okay, these were my assumptions. I staffed 100% of those 2,000 hours. So I had 600 hours allocated to laser skin rejuvenation, 1,000 to injectables, and 400 hours to integrative medicine. Those are the hours staffed. And now what I have to do is determine, based on all that information that we built and worked on, and we see this with we call them solopreneurs, these single nurses, NPs, physicians who just they have one room and they do it. This comes from our experience, is that if they utilize 60%, if they sell 60% of those 2,000 hours, they'll sell 1,200 hours in the first year. And then if you look at the actual sales and what that relates to is, in laser skin rejuvenation at $800 an hour, selling 600 hours, I've made $288,000. 600,000 in injectables, 48,000 in integrative medicine. I'm probably low on that because I think I recall Dr. Myron saying that these injections are like $1,000 or $2,000. So some of the stem cells and things. So I'd rather be conservative, but nonetheless. And then your total service sales at 936. And then the other piece of aesthetic medicine is the retail sales. I mean, we see, I think when we were building on this assumption, we put 15%, that 15% of the service sales, where we know that it's 20% is very doable. So bottom line here, I just wanted to share with you, just using the kind of numbers and the way that we forecast in our program to show you what one treatment room with 2,000 hours to staff can generate in revenue annually, and $1,076,400. We see it all the time, and we know it can be done. The key is to do it the right way. What we really want to do is keep you also from making expensive mistakes so that you can have this kind of opportunity in one treatment room. So at this point, what I would like to do is to pass the baton to Donna Allen. Donna, take it away.
Thank you, Robbie. So what you will have access to over the next, after you finish up with the 2 months of training with us on the lessons, you're going to have access to the platform. And the platform you're going to have access for 3 to 12 months. So Peak via the platform is an integrated solution designed to support your practice in achieving optimal performance across several critical areas. The platform is segmented into 4 categories, each offering a distinct functionalities and that contribute to the overall success and the growth of your practice. So training is one of the objectives, is to design to elevate the skills and knowledge of your team members. It offers a wide range of online courses such as onboarding, designed to be done at your own pace. It's like, a little MBA in aesthetics. The finance, it covers everything you need to know about operating a financially sustainable practice. Sales, which is critical, as Robbie said, for all the members of your staff to know everything about the sales process. It covers HR and helps you navigate employees through the recruitment stage, all the way through separation and marketing videos to help you successfully market your practice and track it. The benefits are that this is a continuous education. The continuous education ensures that your staff is always at the forefront of the industry standards and best practices. You will be able to identify what courses your team are going to be enrolled in, and they can even get certified, showing that they completed the courses. Engagement, it's one of the other areas of the platform. Its objective is centered around enhancing patient engagement and loyalty. It provides tools to manage videos through that educate patients on their procedures. By fostering strong patient engagement and relationships and improving communication, these video journeys help increase patient retention and loyalty. Additionally, it supports lead conversion and upselling, which are crucial for your business's growth. Some of the features is going to be the portal. It's a centralized platform for practices to access educational content and send it out to patients. The journey reports provides insights into how patients are interacting with the content. Recipient reports tracks which patients have received and engaged with the specialized journeys, and helping them to measure the impact of these efforts. And the web form allows you easy access to the QR code or the link to facilitate creative marketing efforts and follow-up. Analytics, this is the third arm of the platform. Its objective is to provide robust daily data analysis capabilities that are essential to making informed business decisions. It empowers the practice to monitor key performance indicators, like Robbie said, financial metrics, industry benchmarks in real time. With these insights, the practice can identify trends, optimize operations, and strategically plan for future success. This is a data-driven approach that ensures that you can adapt quickly to changing circumstances and continue to thrive in the competitive market. Key features, Robbie mentioned, the BI dashboards, the baseline, the KPI, the goal tracker. They offer a comprehensive view of your business data, allowing for easy tracking of performance metrics across various aspects of your practice. The financial calculators, Robbie talked a lot about these. We will be going into these when we go through the courses. They help project revenue, manage expenses, and analyze the financial health of your practice. And then the customer support team, which Robbie talked about, is going to teach you data entry, which is going to allow for input and organization of data, ensuring that all relevant information is accurately captured and available for analysis. Peak is a powerful platform. It's all-encompassing tools that integrates patient engagement, staff training, and advanced analytics into a single platform. By leveraging the platform, your practice can achieve greater operational efficiency and enhance patient care and drive sustainable growth. And I'm going to let Lindsay now talk about the fourth category of our platform, which is community. Lindsay?
Thank you, Donna. As Donna mentioned, our platform has 4 modules and community is the final one. As a member of our Clarity community, you have a lot of things that are available to you. We work very hard to pull together a network of professionals that can share with one another best practices, insights, information in the industry. But in addition to working together as a cohort in a group, we also offer ongoing education. That's through webinars and workshops. We have those live regularly, but we also record those because we understand that you're very busy. And so you would have access to our library of educational webinars and workshops. We also hold things like networking events, Q&A sessions, open forums where we can just openly share and ask questions to one another. The coaches moderate these, so we are there to answer questions on best practices, but it's also a great opportunity to learn from others who are out there doing the same things as you. It fosters peer-to-peer discussion, and we also have social media forums strictly for our community without the outside influence of vendors or other practices that are not part of the community. This allows you, again, to ask your questions and hear from not only the coaches, but other people just like you. We offer group training sessions as well as guided onboarding that you have access to. So as Donna mentioned, all of those amazing tools that are going to help you optimize your business, there are lots of trainings that are available on demand. This is a really nice feature because this allows any new people that come into your practice, a new manager, a new provider, they can go through and they can take those as part of their onboarding. This allows your team to continue moving forward and new people to get up to speed. As a member of our Clarity community, you have access to additional consulting services. This is not available to anyone who is not part of our Clarity community. So if you do need additional help or more tailored solutions, you have access to our coaching team, and we can help you learn more about if that's a right fit for you. So I am going to turn this over to Jasmine, who's going to share a little bit of the details regarding what this program offering looks like for each of you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay and Dr. Myron, to Robbie, of course, Donna as well. We so appreciate you taking the time out to join us this evening, seizing this true business opportunity. It really will help you advance ahead of this next wave, which is going to be with dental and aesthetics via the Care Aesthetics clinics. I'm sure that you have seen there is a lot of interest in this area, adding on the aesthetics, anti-aging, rejuvenative medicine into the dental practice. It makes total sense. You are here for a reason, and my team and I, we are ready to partner with you. So we're here to answer your questions. We're here to make this process as simple as possible. Nothing's off the table, so prepare questions. If you have any, we're going to have some Q&A session coming up shortly. But we are here to help you position yourself ahead of this wave, ensuring your success, and of course, ensuring the Care Aesthetics brand continues to grow. So what does that mean for your practice success? So let's kind of go back to a slide that Robbie had shared. In one room at 60% capacity with a fully trained staff member. the potential upwards of $250,000 before the end of 2024. So how would that additional resource impact your practice? You can take a minute just to think about that. And without setting a clear launch date and precise projections, you are missing adding this seamless integration into your new aesthetic practice. And you can have this opportunity alongside Dr. Myron, who is going back into this program very actively, be a part of this cohort. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So now you need to consider what's at stake if you don't act. With no change, falling behind is likely. And to be honest, it's an already competitive market. So that could mean missing out on substantial revenue and growth potential, as we have illustrated for you today. So joining Dr. Myron in this exclusive cohort, it puts you ahead. Now, this program, as Robbie mentioned, is an extraction of a larger, more robust program, which we can elaborate more one-on-one in a conversation with myself and team. But basically, this is tailored to empower your practice. We understand the needs of having a fully thriving practice while trying to launch something new, giving birth to something that is very unfamiliar. So you'll benefit not only from the significant savings that we're going to share with you in just a moment, but get the real value, a program that's curtailed and customized to fit with the consultant that helped to design it with Dr. Myron. It's truly a phenomenal opportunity. This total program value is $30,000, bringing a savings as we've worked through these details with Dr. Myron, with our team, and that number has been reduced. And with a $12,500 opportunity, to be honest with you, at 8 weeks, we can demonstrate many, many other resources available in the competitive market to what we provide for far more than this price. But we are committed to seeing the care aesthetics practice thrive. We have a promotional opportunity this evening for anybody that's willing to join with us before Friday of this week, an additional $2,500 in reduction in savings for you. And I've got a link directly to, tap into this opportunity now. You can meet with me. My cell phone is there. Whatever makes this most possible for you. I'm looking forward to getting each of you started on this call. So I just wanted to turn this back over to Lindsay. Lindsay, I know that you're going to take some questions and any other specifics. I'm here regarding pricing.
Absolutely. I do want to share that the information on the slide has been put into the chat. It does have some links in there, as well as the contact information. So please make sure you take that down. Feel free to take a picture of the slide that's up right now if you'd like. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and feel free to put those in the chat. Our team, as well as Dr. Myron, is here to answer any questions that you have. So I'll give you all just a couple of minutes here to think about any questions you have. All right. Don't be shy. I'm sure that there are a few questions out there. Let's get started with this question here. What key metrics should startup businesses or practices track in those first 8 weeks to gauge their progress or success? And how should they maybe adjust their strategy based on the metrics? So, Robbie, I feel like that's probably going to be a question geared towards you about what do you feel like those key metrics are right in the beginning? And then how do people pivot their strategies based on those?
I think the first and the most important metric that you need to know when you open a new practice, be it in your existing practice or otherwise, is what your potential in your market is. I find that from having developed numerous, many practices, that the perception is I'm going to open my doors and, everybody's getting Botox and everybody's doing this, and it's so important. So we start with managing those expectations. But then from there, to me, the most important numbers are revenue per hour, how many hours productivity, revenue per hour productivity, and then starting with that forecast. Remember, in the lesson 3, I talk about you've got to have a pathway to follow. So we build that based on your opportunity and then monitoring that on an ongoing basis, comparing where you should be to where you are with those metrics, revenue per hour, productivity, and then when you look at marketing and leads too, so the lead capture. But again, the most important one is first starting with what your potential is, and not just throwing money at different areas because you think they're supposed to be, you're going to have this much, interest in your practice, and it doesn't happen that way. So we've got to know, we got to begin with the end in mind. What do we have to work with? And then we adjust our spend, we adjust all of our expenses and things to that. So for me, those are the most important things.
Great, thank you. We also have a question from Carlos, and Dr. Myron, I'd like for you to weigh in on this from your side as well, since you've been through this. He says, can I start this program without a laser?
Good
Oh,
question.
question for me. I mean, absolutely. Without a doubt, we actually recommend to a lot of our med spas or dentists turning towards med spa to start with things like PRF and Botox are probably the 2 simplest things you can do. IVs with exosomes as well. The start cost is not very high, but the profitability is very high.
Yep.
So we always recommend that. Actually, I know a lot of people like to go all in, and or some people already have a laser, so that makes it really easy because then you just need the proper training to dive deep. But I would say, start by trying to make at least 10 to 20,000 of profit from these treatments before you dive into a laser that's going to cost you maybe $2,000+ a month in your expenses. So that's for sure. I had another question too, Robbie. Since you work in the med spa space so frequently, what is the cost per acquisition of a patient that stays with you in just general numbers? Like how many hundreds of dollars or thousands, or what is kind of the going rate, if I want to call it, for trying to acquire some of these patients? Because I think one of the unique things about these being a dental practice, we have all these patients already, right? So we're picking from people that we've known for 10 years plus. But just to give people an idea in the industry, like how much money are you seeing people spend to, the cost per acquisition? Because I know I spent a lot in the early going.
I would say for a non-surgical practice, what we're seeing with the data is between $150 and $250 per lead. So if you're looking at, pay-per-click or with that way. So this is why how you communicate with that existing patient base you have. And it's not just that. If it costs $150 or let's just say $200 a lead, let's go back to my long-term value of the patient, that's $7,000. I will spend $200 if I make sure that the person that answers the phone and captures that lead understands how to move them forward. So the price of the lead is just one piece of it. You might as well throw money away if you haven't been trained on what to do with that lead.
Sure.
So that is really those are true numbers that we see when we look at price, the acquisition price, but you've got to take that and really fine tune when that lead comes in. What do you do with it? And it's important that you understand it is expensive to get a lead. So how can I also nurture my patient base through direct emails, through sending out these journeys Donna talked about? We have so many tools through Clarity that you don't have to go to a Google pay-per-click or a Meta ad. You can do it in other ways, because when you do go those other ways, it is expensive. It is expensive. And even more expensive actually for injectables. Injectables are one of the most expensive leads to buy because it's so competitive.
Sure.
Whereas there's other ways to nurture those leads through your own patient base that you
Mhm.
already have.
So what is considered a good like closure rate, let's say, between, all right, we got X number of leads coming in, like what do you define as success in that space?
Okay, so for me, there's two different places that we measure. And Lindsay, Donna, Jasmine, jump in and help me here if you want to add to it. But we want to measure, first of all, lead to consult, right? They've got to come in first. They aren't necessarily a patient yet. And I'm talking new patients. Lead to consult. If I can get a 50% lead to consult ratio, I think that I'm doing a great job. We have a fun little calculator we'll share with you that just shows you if you get 100 leads a month over 12 months and you convert 50% of those to consults, and then from your consult to close. So this is now where my consult, it goes from being a prospect to a patient. I want to see somewhere from 60 to 70%, I think is real. I think sometimes when I see these real high close rates, I worry that I am qualifying my patient before I even schedule the consult. So realistically, 60 to 70% should be my close. But here again, this is using our tools. If you can get that CIQ, it's all about that first contact. When I come in, you've already asked me what my concerns are, what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the reds and the browns. I would like to have, my little lower area here filled a little bit. I'm starting to lose fat and I'm looking older there. So now I've given you 4 or 5 things to talk to me about. So wouldn't it be great at a 60 or 70% close, not just to close that biofill or that PRF injectable, but all the other things. So those are my numbers. I say at 50%. And here's another piece to that too, Dr. Myron. That's where are those leads coming from? You're going to have a higher close rate if the leads are coming out of a patient base that already knows you and trusts you. So those numbers I'm giving you are really leads that don't have a relationship with your practice, because that's what we, when we're dealing with new practices that have no foundational basis of patients. And there's a lot of other ways that we can in this course share with care aesthetics practices how to use that base you have through the journeys, through the way that we communicate with our existing base. So
Mhm.
I'd like to say it's higher for a care aesthetics practice, but I don't have hard data for that. What I gave you is what I know from just pure aesthetics.
Yeah, I would say that the closure rate when somebody's actually in a consult in our office is probably closer to 90 or 95%. And I'm not over exaggerating.
Yep.
It's just kind of what we've experienced, at least for me personally. It's like when they're there, then they're probably going to book almost 100% of the time. It's more, how do we get more of those people that are going for those consults, right? And that's where I think that having your pre-existing dental practice, just being able to feed that and having your entire team talking about aesthetics and really getting people into consults can be really valuable.
Right.
Another question that we get asked frequently in terms of like Care Aesthetics Jupiter to replicate kind of what we're doing is we get asked a lot, who should be the first person that they either hire and or convert, and how they should structure that. And so we see a lot of very talented clinicians, but we understand also that they're very busy. And then I also see that their office managers are busy, their front desk is busy, everybody's kind of busy. So when you start to tell somebody like, hey, you need to start taking all these hours, learn about clarity, learn about this, answer the phone, check in with leads within 15 minutes, and it may not be part of their routine. I found that sometimes when they have a helper of some kind, whether it be a nurse, an esthetician, I don't know what the answer to that question is. And maybe you've worked also with ophthalmologists and optometrists and orthopedic surgeons and, MDs that have other side practices. So what's been most common for some of these people trying to branch out and adding this to their practice?
Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear on the question. We're not asking about the practitioner to hire, we're asking about administrative staff.
Yeah, or either like what do you recommend in the early going? Like, should a nurse practitioner be co-administrative? Should we hire an administrative person? You know, when we have don't want to say a limited budget, but let's say you don't want to dump a whole bunch of money into this brand new thing, right? What are some pearls that maybe you can share with us on how to best set this up?
Yeah. Don't step over dollars to pick up dimes. How do I say that, right? That's my first thing, is that you need someone that can consistently convert that lead, that an admin person, a patient coordinator, a receptionist. You can train a receptionist. I mean, you know, they're right in front of them on that screen. They're seeing those leads come in, because if you depend on that nurse practitioner, if you depend on that person doing that also, what happens when they have, you know, they come in and they start at 9 and they're not free till noon? All those leads or all those opportunities are sitting there and nobody's dealing with them. So again, when we build that forecast and when we have that one-on-one call with the care aesthetics practices, Dr. Myron, we're going to determine we're going to look at where they are. We're going to meet them where they are, but we will put into the budget. We will create a budget and say, this person will help you to get to here. Without this person, you're going to get here, and this is why, and we can show them that. So I have a tendency to, it's not cookie cutter for everybody. Everybody's situation is different. So I like to put it on paper. And then, you know, I always tell people when we're building that forecast, okay, this is your potential, right? This is your market. Now let's build the blue sky. Let's see what it's going to cost the practice. What is my investment going to be to add this new vertical to my practice? And then we can always take things away. And so that's one of the beautiful things about that foundational first part of the practice, is that it's not the same for everyone, and we can tailor it to where they are, you know, what the opportunity is. You may be in a market where there's not a lot of competition, so you've got more opportunity with your existing practice. So there are definitely variables with that.
We did have another question that kind of piggybacks onto that, which is, will you help us in the hiring process? So Robbie, do you want to share a little bit about some of the resources and what that looks like from the educational side of the program?
I would really love for Donna to answer that, because this is a big part of that operational. The one full lesson is the HR, the recruitment, and how to do it. Yes, we do support you with Donna, if you can share that.
So we do support you with HR. We have job descriptions. We have interview questions. We have, you know, how to hire, how to interview, all of that stuff. You know, we'll tell you the best, you know, the best platforms, or the best job postings to use. So we have all of that stuff. So we can definitely help you with that. You know, with the actual hiring, you know, we don't do that. We don't actually have to help you with the hiring of a you know, person, but we will help you get through that process. And sometimes, you know, Robbie, I know, has done it. I know I have done it. I've helped interview. I've done an interview over the phone. I've, you know, walked through some of the people that, you know, the practice has put before us. We'll interview them for you. We will definitely help you through the process.
Yeah.
I want to drop in there too to add to that. And Robbie mentioned this earlier, but we have that amazing compensation calculator as well, which I think is one of the really tough things for anyone hiring in any vertical anywhere. And it's a really great tool to help you narrow in on what does that compensation plan look like, so that when you are hiring, you're making sure it's sustainable for your practice, it's competitive. And it really will allow the provider to continue to grow and earn more, but also help your practice grow. So another great tool that I know Donna and Robbie help with in that hiring process.
Yeah, and just to further on that, you know, when I first started, I mean, I had no idea what to pay a nurse practitioner. I mean, it was just like a completely new world for me, right? So I think that for me as well, I'm firsthand used all the information that you guys provided, which have worked out extremely well with my current staff. So I think, you know, the way it's designed is very fair and reasonable and allows them the growth potential, like you guys said, as the practice grows. So you know, as the practice has gotten busier, I've been able to step out of the practice more and more in hopes that, you know, some of my employees can make more money. But at the end of the day, you know, if the practice is making more money, that's everybody wins, so to speak. So
100%.
Absolutely. All right. At this time, I don't have any more questions in the chat. We can give it just another minute if anyone has any last minute or
I have
Dr.
another question, actually,
Yeah,
just 'cause I get asked a lot of questions during
yeah, no,
these
that's
courses.
great.
Um, who's the best person, in your opinion, to do a consult? Is it the practitioner? Is it the office manager? Is it, you know, how would you, what is common for the practices you guys work with, or how do you coach on that? Because I get asked that question a lot, and sometimes I just find it's a people person thing. Like some office managers are fantastic, some clinicians are fantastic, but generally speaking, what do you guys typically see or recommend for offices?
the- Everyone needs to know how to do the consultation. And again, it depends on your circumstances. Um, your practice, typically the best person initially is the person that's going to meet and assess and start the path with the patient. That's the practitioner. Now, as you get busier, you will find, and this is just, makes financial sense to let that practitioner perhaps then go on to the next patient and then let someone go through the money conversation with them. And that would be the PCC, but you've got to teach your practitioners, your estheticians, those people. Now, there's other factors to it also, talking about, medical clearance. If you got to do that, I've got to see an MP. So the MP, so there's certain regulatory pieces to that have to be addressed in the very beginning. But, our goal at Clarity, our sales training, is to teach everyone on your team that process. Because even if the girl that answers the phone doesn't do the consultative process, she's setting up that practitioner, or she's setting up that PCC to do the practice. When I call or when I speak to maybe one of my dental patients, let me tell you why you should come to Care Aesthetics, to this part of our practice, why you should choose us over someone else. And that can be a receptionist. So the most important person that has to know it all, I think, is the practitioner initially, but everybody in your practice should be trained on that. And again, I'm confident that our system also will benefit the dental side of the practice by having the conversations and how to have the conversations. But it is the practitioner first, but everyone in the practice needs to understand what happens in that consultation so that they can talk about it and encourage people to get a consultation.
Mhm. Yeah, I think my office probably takes it for granted because we've watched so many of the training videos years ago, and it's kind of ingrained in them a little bit. But just to go over, you know, at Clarity, how many hours of training videos do you guys have built into the program that can be watched by, you know, all the staff members that can benefit from it? I can't remember exactly the amount, but if you guys can kind of discuss that, because it's not like you just learn it in a 30-minute call, right? It's like actually hours of training to do it, you know, at a very high level.
Lindsay, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I want to say the financial training and all of the financial training components and the sales training components, I believe, are over 40 hours total. And then in addition, remember, we do have that community component, which has the education, the ongoing educational webinars and workshops. And because we record those, there is a vast library that you guys, I would say hundreds of hours worth of content available in there to go back and, just look for a specific topic. If you want to learn more about marketing, I know marketing for sure has about 20 hours worth of content by itself, specifically in that community. So, and we're always adding to that. We continue. That community is something that never stops. As well as we are always developing new educational content for our practices as the industry evolves, as we learn new needs that our practices have and things that we can address for them. So currently, those sales and financial trainings, though, that Robbie did talk specifically about making sure your team members have about 40 plus hours in there. And we do recommend that your teams watch that, and revisit it about every 3 to 6 months, honestly. The sales training, especially financial training for the managers, probably not so much. You can go back and refresh as needed. But that sales training, it's really great to have a refresher a couple of times a year just to keep your team on top of making sure they've got those good habits. And I like to say, even when you're really great at it, every time you watch it, you pick up a new little nugget of something that you had forgotten about or that you didn't pick up the first time around. And so that becomes, again, having that on demand is really great for your team. So helps them manage getting through that many hours of training also, because we do understand that everybody's very busy.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
And for whatever it's worth, I mean, you never know. Last week I did 2 community calls and I was bursting with new ideas that how to, target certain specific people in your practice and then send them a journey for something that they're not doing. I was my head was buzzing. So we are always learning here. And that's the beautiful thing, I think, of what we've done at Clarity is we've brought together not just the experience of us, but really the input and this is real time with all the practices that are a part of Clarity, all of our practices. It's sort of like a family kind of when we have these community calls. You get to know people, just like you are in care aesthetics. So I took two hours, did 2 calls, an area that I needed some brushing up on last week. And by the end of the first hour, I had a whole list. Okay, we're going to do this and we're going to have to do this and we're going to have to do that. So listen, we always need to continue learning and growing. And that is one of the things that Clarity and the practice performance system, the whole encompassing thing is about pushing you to learn. We want to give you the tools. We want to teach you how to do it. We'd love to do it for you, but it's better if we can teach you how to do it and make sure your team understands how to do it.
Very good.
And it never ends. You got to always train, you got to always teach and keep them excited. It's really not a challenge. It should really become a part of the culture of your practice, that this is what we do. We have fun, we role play, at different staff meetings, pull out one of the training videos, highlight that one video and say, now we're going to role play. Maybe it's for the front team and pretend that you're a patient calling or you're, do all those things. And it's fun. It builds team, but it helps them to know how to deal with all the situations in that process from lead to patient.
Absolutely. Dr. Myron, do you have any more questions to share?
I'm good. I asked all
Okay.
the ones that I get asked frequently. So
Okay,
very well
thank
done.
you for sharing those as well. We have no more questions in the chat either, so I think we will start to wrap it up for this evening. As a reminder, in the chat is that contact information on how to reach out to our team, or if you are ready to register, there is a link there for you. We do have Robbie's email as well, so if you do have some specific questions geared towards Robbie or Donna about the educational part of this, Robbie has shared her email also and is happy to field those questions after our call tonight. So thank you all so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing more from you and helping you grow your new care aesthetics practice. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.